Mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Congratulations on your fight last Saturday. Very shocked
Sasha.
and surprised to see you fighting Lauren Price, but
Well, that's not a gimme yet.
no, it's a tough fight. It's not made yet.
Well, there's a few things that we're still quick to jump out of the blocks. One, I want via the drug testing. Don't know if that's been agreed yet. So people too quick out of the traps.
I don't want to stir any porridge. Sounds like a fight's been announced without a contract being signed.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying there's an agreement and everything else. I need to speak to Natasha because we want to analyse our performance after it. Where do we go? Is that it or whatever? Everyone's quick to jump the gun, and I'm at the moment looking for the best money fight for Natasha, and that's either Katie or Michaela Mayer. So we'll see.
Where have we seen this before? So I remember a couple of months ago, they jumped the gun on what was supposed to be an Adam Azim versus Harlem Eubank fight. They had those two guys meet each other in the ring post-fight, and by all accounts, it looks like they were going to fight until they didn't.
Over there at Boxer.
Boxer that recently announced the Natasha Jonas versus Lauren Price fight. They went as far as putting up a graphic and giving a date, but according to Smokin' Joe Gallagher, that fight ain't done.
And he's looking for a better deal.
I'm not surprised, because I said it ahead of Natasha Jonas's fight with Ivana Habazin, that a rematch with Michaela may be comparatively a bigger fight than a unification with Lauren.
Michaela's got just as many belts as Lauren, with more of a profile. She is a more established name.
Unfinished business between Natasha Jonas and Michaela Mayer. When Michaela fought her, she fought her in Liverpool. She fought her in the United Kingdom. To do a rematch, Natasha may have to come to America, though she might be willing.
Even if she's favored to lose.
Listen, she's favored to lose the Lauren Price fight. She could lose that one just as easily as she could lose a Mayer rematch, but with Michaela, it might be for more money. And if you lose to Michaela, at the very worst, you're 1-1 with each other.
Natasha has a recorded win over Michaela. Michaela would then have a recorded win over Natasha. Maybe they do a trilogy.
I'm telling you, I'm not surprised. I'm not the least bit surprised that after the fight was unofficially announced, we're now hearing this from Natasha's longtime trainer, Joe Gallagher, that they're still in the market for a Katie Taylor fight. Not that I think that's going to happen. And they're still in the market for a Mayer rematch, because he views those two fights as being bigger than a Lauren Price fight. In a Lauren Price fight, you have to be honest. You're just using Natasha as a launch pad for Lauren, to catapult Lauren into the next stratosphere with a familiar face. That's what you're doing.
You're using Natasha as a stepping stone.
At Natasha Jonas's age, I believe she's about 40, even though she doesn't look it, you're in it for the big bucks. The most money you can make for the risks you're taking. Lauren Price is a very risky fight, and maybe a Michaela Mayer rematch is too.
But you've been there and done that before with her, and you're under more threat of being knocked out by Lauren than you are Michaela.
Lauren is a true welter. She's not a smaller fighter who moved up to welter like Natasha Jonas or like Michaela Mayer. She's a full-fledged welterweight.
It's on Top Rank to prepare an offer. A better offer to Natasha than what she stands to make fighting Lauren.
It's on them. And if by some chance they don't do it, well, then it would be up to Boxer to prepare Michaela a good enough offer to bring her back to the UK, because she doesn't want to go back. And Boxer, they want to make that Price fight anyway.
That's the fight they're trying to make. They're all in for Lauren Price.
So I guess the question is, how much money is Top Rank willing to put up to bring Natasha Jonas to America? How invested are they? Are they still in Michaela?
Oh, that extra weight looks good on her.
This was supposed to be Natasha Jonas's final year in the sport of boxing. If she's sticking around a while longer, it's to make the most money possible. She's already very accomplished.
This is Michaela Mayer's window of opportunity to get back in the world title scene, the unification picture, because if Natasha were going to go through with that Lauren Price fight, Michaela would have been frozen out for the foreseeable future.
And whoever would have won that fight between Natasha and Lauren would have been trying to lure her back to the UK. She said she doesn't want to go. This situation, this revelation, this is Michaela's opportunity to bring Natasha to America.
Can she do it?
I remember that Tesco Joe was pretty ticked off with Ben Shalom and Boxer. He thought it was disrespectful that they kept Natasha on the shelf as long as they did. That She did fight at the beginning of this year, but didn't fight at all in the middle and didn't come back until the end.
He didn't like that, so now he's keeping his options open. They're very shrewd business people, Tusko Joe and Natasha. They're gonna do what's right for them, irrespective of whose feathers they ruffled. That's why they never had that fight with Terry Harper. For whatever reason, they didn't want to do it, and they didn't. That rematch, that would have been for Undisputed at Junior Middle. They couldn't be bothered.
So when Joe says that the Price fight ain't done, I believe him. Men's Cruiserweight news. Jai Opetaia has ruled out a move to heavyweight. Expects Moses Itelma to reach the top.
What's he ruling out a move to heavyweight for?
Leading Cruiserweight champion Jai Opetaia is among the names of potential opponents for world champion Alexander Usyk following the Ukrainian's rematch win over Tyson Fury. But the Aussie has identified Moses Itelma as the future of the division. Opetaia, 26-0 with 20 KOs, takes on David Nyika on January 8th in a defense of his IBF title and was used by Fury as he prepared for Usyk again. Alongside Opetaia in that camp, also doing Usyk impressions, was Itelma. He's a great fighter. Opetaia said of the prospect when talking to Queensberry, he was in the camp when I sparred Fury. He was one of the southpaws. The kid's good. He's only young. It's going to be good to see his progress and for him to reach the top, and I'm sure he will. On last night's undercard, the 11-0 Itelma aced what looked beforehand like his toughest test when fringe contender Dempsey McKean was stopped in the opening stanza. He's only 19, Opetaia continued. He's got the world at his feet. Opetaia also sparred Nyika, his next opponent, in the past.
Oh, so he knows him.
It's a good fight. I've done a lot of rounds with him, and they've been competitive rounds, but sparring is sparring and fighting is fighting. I feel like I'm a different beast when I fight. When the fight comes, I've got a job to do. Winning is a must. With almost everyone expecting Opetaia to defeat Nyika, talk naturally comes to what's next. Gilberto Ramirez holds the other 3 titles, so an undisputed showdown is a natural, but a jump to heavyweight has long been mentioned. When that chapter comes, it comes, Opetaia said. At the moment, I'm fully focused on collecting all the belts as a cruiserweight, and then once I've done that, we can start talking about the heavyweight division.
Well, when you put it that way, what's the rush? Zerto's right there. So is Badu Jack, reinstated as WBC champion.
And the possibility that Alexander Usyk may be moving back down to cruiserweight. Jai Opetaia has talked about potentially fighting him down the line. That if you're Jai, why would I move up now?
What about this guy he's fighting?
David Nyika, 10-0 with 9 KOs, a guy who Jai Opetaia admittedly has sparred on several occasions, someone that he's familiar with, and what seems to me to be a safe choice for a late replacement.
David fought 2 times this year, once in May, then again in September, opposite the ring veteran journeyman Tommy Karpensi. Haven't heard that name in a long time.
He's still fighting?
Well, he fought David Nyika this past September, got knocked out in 3.
Standing in at 6'6" with a 78-inch wingspan, this fight gives me Jordan Thompson kind of vibes, a Jordan Thompson kind of feel. At 6'6", that's pretty big for a cruiserweight, but then again, so was Jordan Thompson, and we see what Jai Opetaia did to him. What's he about to do to David Nyika, nicknamed the Nice Guy?
Well, then I see why they picked him.
You're talking about a fighter that Jai Opetaia has sparred before on several occasions. He's certainly not as experienced as Jai Opetaia or some of the other contenders in the IBF's current rank standings. Initially, I thought they were going to go with Poland's own Mikhail Cieslak or maybe Matthias Masternak. Those are the 2 highest ranked contenders in the IBF's ranked standings.
I thought it would come down to one of them.
But it came down to the number 10 ranked David Nyika, barely cracking the top 10 on the fringe. So you see what the logic is. Oftentimes, these late replacements can be potential banana skins like Sebastian Fundora was for Tim Kazoo. He was a late replacement.
Ugas was a late replacement in the Pacquiao fight. You see what he did to Manny?
So to prevent Jai Opetaia from ending up how those fighters ended up, They went with somebody familiar, somebody local, somebody who's not as experienced as Jai Opetaia, but Jai is familiar with him. He sparred him before.
It's a safe choice. They went the safe route.
And I'm not lambasting them for it. They had to find somebody on short notice to replace Hussein Sin Cara, so they went with somebody local, somebody who's in the IBF's rank standings, albeit very low in the ranks. And I'm expecting Jai Opetaia to do to David what he did to another statuesque fighter in Jordan Thompson. That's what I'm expecting.
After that, he can look to unify with the winner of Badu Jack versus Ryan Rositsky, or the winner of the upcoming Zurdo Ramirez versus Uniel Dorticos fight.
You know, this has been going on in the background of everything. When we shift our focus over to the WBA and the WBA situation, I remember that before Zurdo even became WBA champion, Uniel Dorticos was in the queue as Arsen Goulamarian's mandatory challenger. Fast forward, because Arsen never fought him, he fights Zurdo, he loses. Zurdo becomes WBA champion.
They didn't strip Arsen for not fighting Uniel?
No, they didn't. They allowed Arsen Goulamarian to put his title up against Zurdo Ramirez, and he lost it.
So now Uniel becomes Zurdo's mandatory, and the fight between them gets ordered this past July.
No deal is reached, and a purse bid is scheduled in August. They must have come to some kind of an arrangement because Zurdo Ramirez was allowed to put his WBA title up just a few weeks ago against Chris Billum Smith in a unification match.
He beats Chris Billum Smith, he picks up the WBO title. Now, he's unified champion. Last month, the order came back down.
The order to satisfy Uniel Dorticos as his mandatory challenger, who by then had been in the queue for over a year.
Now he's up. Now he's due.
So Zurdo's got to deal with this Dorticos situation. Badu Jack has got to deal with Ryan Rositsky. And very soon, next month, Jai Opetaia will take care of David Nyika. After that,
He's free to go belt hunting.
with whoever has the belts when the dust settles. So I see why he's not pressed to move up to heavyweight at this time. And if he's making the weight all right, there's no point.
No need.
With Alexander Usyk, of all people, entertaining the possibility of moving back down and going on another undisputed cruiserweight run, why would you move up when he's moving down? That's a distinct possibility. Usyk's longtime promoter would like for him to become an undisputed champion for a third time.
It's just a question of where.
Alexander Usyk's promoter, Alexander Krassyuk, has said he wants the unified heavyweight champion of the world to become the undisputed champion of the world again. Usyk defeated Fury for the undisputed title in May, but relinquished the IBF version for Daniel Dubois, who made his first defense against Anthony Joshua at Wembley this past September. Usyk retained his WBA, WBC, and WBO belts against Fury in Riyadh this past Saturday. Dubois is set to fight Joseph Parker in February at the same venue in his second title defense. After the Usyk vs. Fury rematch, Daniel Dubois stormed the ring and called out Usyk, and that is the fight that Krassyuk would like the most for his champion. Daniel Dubois is the champion. If you ask me, I would love Usyk to become undisputed the third time, he told Fight Hub. Usyk enjoyed undisputed reigns at cruiser and heavy. That is something I would love to see. Usyk asked Turki El Sheikh to arrange the fight with Daniel, but it's a little bit early because Daniel Dubois is fighting Joseph Parker, who's a beast from New Zealand. And my best bet is with Joseph.
Oh, he thinks Joseph is gonna win.
Not because I disrespect Daniel, just because I consider Joseph Parker's skills higher than Daniel's. Is it possible for a fighter to be a more skilled fighter than another, but still lose to him? I'd say that it is, because some things don't necessarily boil down to applied sciences. Some things boil down to physicality. You could argue that Joseph Parker is a more skilled fighter than Joe Joyce, but Joe still beat him.
It didn't boil down to skill. It boiled down to size, persistence, and volume. Joe just mowing him down and bearing down on him, putting punches together. That's what won him the fight. That's what I think will win Daniel Dubois the fight.
So wait a minute. If Alexander Krassyuk wants Usyk to fight Daniel Dubois for a second time so that he can become an undisputed champion for a second time, where does all this stuff about Usyk potentially moving down come from?
When did that start up?
It's all based on some comments he made while on the 3 knockdown rule with Stephen Kimothy and Mario Lopez. Usyk said It's my plan because when I start my heavyweight training camps, I'm eating all the time. For me, it's hard and I don't like it. 3 times a day, water, protein, bananas, it's a lot of food.
Pay attention to something.
Usyk weighed about 226 pounds for this past weekend's fight. This is a man standing in at about 6'3", close to 6'4".
He has to eat his way there.
To 226. The cruiserweight limit is 200 pounds. So you figure that if he's not eating those additional meals to put on the weight and keep it at the start of a camp,
If he's not eating the extra food.
by the end of it, he will boil down to 200 pounds, that he can still make it. And I know that there is the cautionary tale of Roy Jones Jr. moving up to heavyweight for John Ruiz, then dropping back down to light heavy for Antonio Tarver. But this drop wouldn't be anywhere near as steep.
But when Roy moved down, he wasn't the same.
Could that happen to Usyk if he were to move back down? And I don't think so, because like I just said, it's not as steep a drop. You're not going from heavy to light heavy, you're going from heavy to cruiser.
What Alexander would be losing would be about 26 pounds.
It's not a lot for a guy who stands in at about 6'3", and he himself admitted he has to eat his way there. Thus, moving back down to the cruiserweight division and becoming an undisputed champion there for a second time, that is a distinct possibility. I'd give Usyk very good odds against Zerto Ramirez, even better against Badu Jack. Currently, Opetaia is the best in show in the cruiserweight division. That would probably be the most difficult fight of the three champions that are there. But even Opetaia has an Achilles heel. While he's very strong and very fast and very athletic, he fades down the stretch. We saw that in both the Mayris Briedis fights.
He doesn't have the best engine.
I like Opetaia, but I don't think he's anywhere near as good a boxer as Alexander Usyk. He's not as defensible, not as fluid, mid-range to inside or on the outside.
He punches wider, too.
It's not saying that he's not a good fighter. He's a very good fighter, but his punches are wider and not as defensible as Usyk's. Usyk's punches are a lot tighter, shorter, and more compact.
Thus harder to counter.
So, I mean, if he were to move back down, I would give Usyk very good odds against today's cruiserweight champions if he does end up doing that.